Imagine a football club that no one wants to play against. Not because they're too good, but because they're too fucking dangerous. A team so feared that their opponents would rather forfeit than set foot on a pitch with them. It might sound like the plot of some teen sports movie, but it's not. This is reality. This is a story of Canelas 2010. Founded as a Phoenix club rising from the ashes of the original Canelas, this reincarnation, just like in your typical horror flick, used the original body, but its intentions and actions were downright sinister. In this video, I'm going to break down the rise of a club Portugal would rather forget. The violence, the crimes they were involved in, the links to one of the country's big three, and how they ended up fading to obscurity once again. So first, and as usual, let me give you some context. The original Canelas was founded in 1966, and in 40 years of existence there is not much to say, except that they once faced Porto in the Portuguese Cup in the 1999-2000 season, and to be fair, they held their own, only losing 1-0. Other than that, nothing. Just year after year of pure mediocrity in the Porto district leagues until they eventually went bankrupt at the end of the 2005-06 season. Like so many other teams, Canelas seemed destined to die a quiet death. Just another forgotten club among dozens in the city of Gaia. But in 2010, the club was brought back. However, the real turning point came in 2012, when they brought in a former player, someone who hadn't made much of a mark on the pitch, but had made quite a name for himself off it. And his name is... Fernando Madureira is one of the most controversial yet influential figures in Portuguese football. Born and raised in Ribeira, Macaco, as is known, wasn't just a capo of the ultras, he also had legit experience playing for local level clubs. So natural, and yeah, mostly because of the financial clout it bring, Canelas invited him to be a leading figure at the club. But Macaco wasn't coming alone. With him came his squad of blue-clad Avengers, all of them Super Dragões. Isaac, Chivante, Aranha, and of course, Marco Orelhas. Now look, I know a thing or two about Portuguese district football, and let me tell you, you're not gonna find the most gifted players in the fucking ultras section. It'd make a hell of a lot more sense to recruit physically strong athletes who can run, maybe throw in a few Brazilians who can actually build play, rather than relying on meathead ultras whose diet basically consists of beer and francesinhas. But the truth is, despite the rough looks of this man, we cannot underestimate the smarts of Macaco either. Because why would you need a phenomenal squad when you can just bring in a bunch of thugs and scare your opponents into not wanting to play at all? Canelas started at the very bottom of Portuguese football in 2012-13, and season after season, assault after assault, they climbed the ladder. To be fair, it is impressive that they managed to get promoted not once, not twice, not 3, but 4 times, all by sheer force. The problem is, we're not talking about a team that just played a little rougher than others. We're talking about this kind of tackling, consistently ignored by referees who were too scared to put their families at risk by going against the Super Dragões pet project. Things got so out of hand that after months of silence from the refs and the federation, Canelas' opponents started straight up refusing to show up for the matches. In the 2016-17 season, Canelas won 16 games by default because their rivals didn't want to face them. They qualified for the promotion stage, and by the third round, when a referee finally dared to intervene during an assault, Marco Orelhas kneed them right in the face. Now, this doesn't surprise me one bit. Some of you might know, I'm actually a Porto fan. I've been to many games in the past, but I usually stay away from the Super Dragões because I like to sit down and watch the game in peace instead of screaming for 90 minutes straight. I know, lame. But it really didn't help that in one of the few times I did join the Super Dragões, during a derby against Boa Vista no less, I was almost robbed by none other than fucking Marco Orelhas. This clown tried to snatch my backpack, and even though I was skinny as hell back then, I held on. He didn't want to cause a scene, so I managed to keep it. But yeah, not the most stable individual. That disgraceful episode with the referee was the peak of Canelas' violence, and yet, even with court cases involved, the team still managed to secure promotion to the Campeonato Nacional. Naturally, a lot of fans were pissed. This team had basically cruised their way to promotion with 48 points they didn't actually earn on the pitch, and with that came new doors, sponsorships, partnerships, on top of the already massive financial support coming straight from Porto's pockets. Well, straight might not be the right word, let's just say rerouted. Back then, people suspected it, but now I can confidently say that Macaco leader was living comfortably off FC Porto's money. Whether through an official salary declared as minimum wage or the insane profits from reselling tickets, the cash was flowing in. Of course, there were rumors about other sketchier sources of income, but I'm not here to throw allegations. Still, credit where it's due. The dude made smart financial moves, he managed to multiply the money he leached from Porto and, over time, invested more and more into Canelas. And as the club kept growing, there was a clear effort to clean up the image that had tainted Portuguese football for years. Even though they reached the national championships in 2017, they got relegated the very next season. I mean, realistically, they never should have gone up in the first place, so it's not that surprising they got sent back to the districts. But that experience only made them stronger, and the following years were the most successful in the club's history. In 2019-20, Canelas stayed up in the Campeonato Portugal and made history in the Portuguese Cup, becoming the first team from Gaia to reach the quarterfinals. And they almost played Porto in the semis, but a last-minute goal shattered that dream to the ground. The year after that, they outdid themselves under the historic promotion to Liga 3, Portugal's new third tier. In the seasons that followed, Canelas flirted with promotion to the second division several times and consistently put together squads worthy of that level. There were barely any Super Dragões left, at least on the pitch. Macaco had semi-retired, and apart from his son, who still popped up now and then, the Ultras seemed like a ghost from the past. But of course, looks can be deceiving. The simple fact that Macaco's family had direct influence over the club's board meant that Canelas, while on the surface looking like a regular team that no longer kicked people in the shins, was still being bankrolled by dirty FC Porto money behind the scenes. But like a certain someone said back in the 2000s, what goes around comes around. Canelas had never been this close to earning promotion as they were in 2024. They really fought until the very last match day to try and secure a historic promotion to the second tier, but in the end they failed and were thrown into the relegation phase. Yeah, the third tier of Portuguese football has a shitty structure, where the top 4 teams from the North and South series move into a promotion phase. Meanwhile, everyone below that line goes into a relegation phase. Even if the team in 5th place had 20 more points than the last, everything gets reset in a way that doesn't reflect that gap at all. And guess who got screwed by that? Canelas. Off the pitch, the club structure was already crumbling. First came the whole controversy with the Super Dragões storming the FC Porto General Assembly. Then came the arrest of Macaco, and finally Pinto da Costa's historic election defeat. Those last two made all the difference. They meant the free ride was over. Canelas had no future, simply because there was no bigger club left to exploit. Even with the unfair competition model, Canelas still had everything needed to stay up. But with only one win in 10 games, the club from Gaia dropped to the 4th division against all odds. It was a total collapse for the Madureira family, for the Super Dragões, and as a consequence, for Canelas. That's how dependent the club was. As soon as the Super Dragões lost the back in the head from FC Porto, they lost all ability to even compete in the 4th division. In a last act of desperation, Canelas SAD tried to merge with Vitória Setúbal SAD in what would be one of the most random and depressing days in Portuguese football history. But thankfully, it didn't go through. Right now, they're back to square one, competing in the lowest district league in Porto, and just like Macaco in prison, they're not getting out anytime soon. I do find it a bit sad that a club meant to represent the community became associated with criminals, but that's exactly what happened. Fernando Madureira is in jail for inciting violence. Marco Aurelius is also behind bars for being involved in a homicide during the celebrations of Porto's last league title. And the club's entire rise was fueled by illicit money. They pressured opponents into forfeiting matches, intimidated referees, and manipulated local federation officials. They even brought this kind of behavior into youth football games. So yeah, I'm glad they're rotting district leagues, because Portuguese football doesn't need any more cancers. And what about you? Do you still remember Canelas? Let me know in the comments if you remember the scandals I mentioned today, or if I missed any juicy detail. As always, here at Thorn FC we talk about everything in Portuguese football, from the big three to the national team to lesser known clubs and even scum like today's topic. So don't forget to subscribe and support the channel. A lot of you send in ideas, share the videos and even give me tips on how to grow the channel, and for that, I'm grateful. Thanks again for watching, I'll see you in the next video.